It's almost fall, y'all, and you know what that means. To get you pumped up for the upcoming months, I put together 30 plus DIYs to fill your crafting heart. Hope you enjoy. I just wanted to add a little note here. I first covered both plaques with a layer of polyacrylic, and then I used something called it's a hippo water transfers, I believe they're called. I will link them in the description box below. They're pretty cool. I've used them before, and I really enjoy them. It's a really fun element to use. So if you're looking for something new, I would encourage you to try them out. They're really fun. And because I can't keep myself from talking, and it's been a couple of days, so I feel a little better. But in the past, I have always wanted to play around with one of these puffball makers. I usually make them out of a cereal box or something like that. They're really simple to make, but I've always wanted to try one of these out. And because I was making a larger project, I decided to purchase these and see if they were worth the money, and they are really fun to use. As you can see, they cut the time pretty nicely. So it's not necessary. You can use cardboard if you were just making a small project or if you didn't want to purchase a new tool. But these were pretty fun to use, and it was interesting to use a new product. Although the scissors it came with, they are not good.
I'm gonna take like semi-long piece. Let's see how this works. It's pretty straight. Oh my gosh, this dryer was pretty flat. Look at that. Nice. Cool. Oh. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that is a cool. Look at that. That's a perfect little puffball. Well, that's pretty cool. Like a little snowball. I like it.
We recently replaced our garden hose, and I really wanted to make a garden wreath out of this old hose, so I started by taping off the ends, and then I spray painted it with this antique white paint that I had in my stash. After it was dry, I rolled up the hose and I used jute string to hold it together. I grabbed an assortment of floral picks from Dollar Tree and Walmart, and the eucalyptus is from Dollar Tree, and the large sunflower pick is from Walmart. I used zip ties to keep the arrangement together, and then I attached it to the hose with more zip ties. I had these old gloves that I really wanted to add to the wreath, so I washed them and poked a hole and zip tied them in place. I had this old piece of burlap ribbon that I've been holding on to forever, and it was just the perfect size for a nice rustic vibed bow. I attached the arrangement to the hose with more zip ties. I really actually prefer this method because then you can easily switch out the flowers if I do choose to do so. I cut 2 styrofoam cups perfectly in half. I covered them with Dollar Tree spackle and then I set them aside to dry. I used a combination of orange, red, brown, and white, or plaster to be more exact, colored paint to create a terracotta color. I then added some baking soda to the mix and then gave it a more clay-like consistency. So I have a few of these square blank plaques that I bought on clearance at Michael's a couple of years ago and I just never used them. Always look at the clearance section at Michael's because you really can find some really cool stuff for really inexpensive. I think these were like $5 each. Pretty cool. I glued the faux flower pots to the plaque with Gorilla Glue and hot glue. I made a decal on my Cricut and I added it to the sign and the flower pots. I added some Dollar Tree floral picks. I did not glue these in so that they can be easily switched out with the seasons. I started this project with one of these pumpkin signs from Dollar Tree. I disassembled it and painted it using orange, green, white, and a homemade brown using a mixture of gray and brown paint. I will have the exact paints that I used as well as all the other supplies listed in the description box below this video. Just a side note, I ended up spray painting the orange pieces with orange spray paint that I had in my stash because the acrylic paint that I initially was using was too transparent and I didn't want to think about doing a million coats of paint. Once everything was dry, I distressed the pieces with some sandpaper. I flipped the boards over, backside up, and glued on 2 jumbo popsicle sticks using a combination of E6000 and hot glue. I cut a strip of Dollar Tree burlap ribbon, hot glued it to the front, and placed the galvanized welcome sign on top. Next, I finished it off with a simple bow using Dollar Tree raffia and a leaf that I painted to match. For this project, I used one of those wood pumpkin cutouts from Dollar Tree and placed 2 strips of painter's tape horizontally across the pumpkin. Next, I filled the hole at the top with stainable wood filler. I then proceeded to stain the wood with a black wood stain. I removed the painter's tape and quickly realized that the taped off area looked way too wide, so I had to go back and I just made it smaller. No big deal. I also sanded off that nice little finger smudge that I made there, which also wasn't a big hassle. I grabbed more of this raffia that I used in the first project and decided to make another one of those cute little bows because I just really liked it. I had some of this Dollar Tree garland in my stash and I never really seemed to be able to use it, so I trimmed off 3 little pieces and curled them around the end of my brush. I hot glued the garland pieces to the base of the stem and then added the bow I made. Finally, I added one of those galvanized words from the Dollar Tree pack, and I chose to use the word thankful. For project number 3, I used another one of those wood pumpkin cutouts from Dollar Tree, as well as a wooden napkin holder, I think it is, also from Dollar Tree. I started the project by disassembling the napkin holder, which actually wasn't too difficult, but it was a little nerve-wracking. As you can see, I'm being a little delicate, and then I figured it out. I sanded the front of the large pumpkin and smoothed the edges of the smaller ones. I used this beautiful shade of blue to paint the first pumpkin. As I mentioned before, I usually write all the supplies for each project along with links to some of the products in the description box below. I painted the large pumpkin with white chalk paint. I felt the last pumpkin needed a little bit of texture, so I used my hot glue gun to paint on the ribs of the pumpkin before I painted it with a yellow chalk paint. After the white pumpkin was dry, I dry brushed around the edges and painted some ribs with just brown acrylic paint. I painted the stem with a mixture of gray and brown paint. This is one of my favorite shades of brown to use, and I used it on all 3 pumpkin stems. I've had this sign since I think last year when I made my farmhouse truck sign, but this arrow is the perfect size for this project, so I'm just going to put that to use. I sanded the glitter off and spray painted it white. I cut 3 more pieces of that Dollar Tree garland, but I didn't want the berries or whatever they are to be green, so I just painted them with that really pretty blue color. I printed out the words pumpkin patch on my printer, and I attempted to show you how I used the carbon paper before I had a Cricut, and so I could show you how well it works. However, I didn't have the correct pen and I didn't have time to deal with it, so in the end I painted over my mess and just used my Cricut to print out the wording. I'm so sorry for that, but sometimes life is crowded and time is just not on your side, right? So I did my best. Next, I assembled my creation using hot glue and some sunflower embellishments. I decided to add some buffalo check bows since I ran out of that Dollar Tree lace, but I did want to show you how cute the lace is anyway. I really wish I had more. The buffalo check ribbon looks nice too, but I definitely need to buy more lace. For this project, I grabbed a package of these wood pumpkins, and I wanted to use up another one of these signs that I got on clearance at Michael's and never used. Yes, I still have a couple more. I took 3 of the pumpkins and painted them all orange. And of course I forgot this step before I painted, but it really wasn't that big of a deal as soon as I remembered that I needed to paint the stems too. I got my sign, I cut my decal, and I applied my decal. I grabbed my jute string and wood beads and strung on 8 beads. I placed the painted pumpkins wrong side up and glued them to the jute string. I used my favorite handy dandy tool to drill 2 small holes in each side so that I could string my jute string through to the back. I really should have put a 2x4 or something behind this board because I was really nervous that I was going to drill a hole in my desk. That's why I'm doing this part so very slowly and cautiously. Once the holes were made, I taped the ends of the jute string and strung it through, then stapled the ends in place. And I didn't show this part, but I also noticed that the pumpkins were falling forward when I stood the sign upright, so I used a little dot of glue to secure them as I wanted them. So I have these tiles, they're dirty, but I have these tiles that I intended to make coasters out of, but I just never got around to it. So it's just a regular tile that I think I got at Home Depot or something. I printed out some really cool pictures that I just got off of Google. But aren't they so cute and fall inspired? Look, how cute are these? And I think I just looked up like pumpkin patch or something, pumpkins. Ooh, my door's gonna slam. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Okay, I'm gonna try this. Let's try something bigger. I'm excited. I'm gonna try this picture. This is such an easy craft. So if this works, then this is one of the coolest products I've ever used because it's super simple. You just print it out. You're literally just printing it out. You're spraying it with acrylic paint, which is just a clear coat, right? A just clear coated paint. And then you let it dry, you dip it in water, and you stick it on the surface, and then let it dry for 3 hours. That's super cool and simple. Look at that. Ah, that's gonna be cool. Look at that. Oh, I'm excited. I'm so excited. Okay. I'm gonna do this. Do I want... The only thing is that this little lip, I probably should have paid attention because I think I got the edge pieces instead of... Are they all like that? I guess they're all supposed... Maybe they're all supposed to be like that. Clearly I don't know anything about tile. But, okay, I'm gonna try this. Yee. Okay. Ah, I'm nervous again. Okay. Oh, I should probably have more water. Let me add more water. Oh my gosh. That scares me every time. Why? Okay. It just shrivels up. Just soaking it in the water. It's gonna come off okay. Let's do it one more time. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's get this all wet. Okay. Oh my goodness, how cool! You seeing this? Dang, look at that. What a cool product.
Check me out, I'm like moving my picture around. Like it's so simple, look. It's almost, I almost feel like you can't really mess this up. Like I'm really nervous because I thought I might mess up the picture or damage it. And look, it doesn't even matter. I could do this if I need to. I can move it around. So I can totally reposition if I were to mess up or if I need to get a bubble out or whatever. And then, oh, what did I do with it? Okay, so then when I get it into position that I like, then I just take off the excess water. Honestly, I was really nervous about even trying out this product because I thought, what if I really suck at it and then I've got nothing to show you and then I disappoint I disappoint everyone. But oh man, I wish you guys could see this the way that I see it, because I used a matte finish acrylic paint and it looks so nice. It looks so, oh, maybe you can kind of see it. I wonder if I open my window. Like, this doesn't do any justice. But it's like a matte finish and this looks gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm gonna set it to dry and I'm gonna do the other ones and then I'll show them to you when I'm done. Oh, I can't get over it. This is so cool. Wow. Really fun. Seriously, I'm not over exaggerating. It takes a lot to wow me, but this is really not what I expected. I expected it to be really complicated. It looked complicated when I was reading the directions, so I was really scared and hesitant. This was simple. I'm sad I waited so long to do it. But I'm doing it now. Yeah!
I am using this scrapbook paper from Michaels, and I just made a simple design on Cricut, and I used the pen feature to draw it out. I have a Cricut Maker, so I am just using the pens. I'm not sure if the other ones do that. And now I am cutting it to fit the inside of one of those mini crates from Dollar Tree. Next, I am using Waverly Chalk Paint in the color Crimson to fill in the sign. So here I have two different sizes of the crates from Dollar Tree, and what inspired me for this project was actually a few years back. If you guys don't remember, there was like a huge trend of making coffee tables out of like rustic crates, and I thought, oh, I'll just make a mini version of that. So that's kind of what inspired me for this project. So here I'm just hot gluing them all together. Then I am taking some Minwax wood stain in the color Early American, and I am staining the entire piece. If I had to redo this project, or if I was doing this project again, I would highly recommend to stain first before you glue it together, because getting in that center part is a pain in the behind. So, yeah. Next, I am taking Waverly Chalk Paint in the color white, and I am dry brushing the edges. I'm actually dry brushing each individual piece so that they look like separate crates. Again, I would do this part also before I glued it together, had I have thought of that before I started making it. Next, I am giving it a nice sanding before I add my finishing touches. Here I'm just weeding another crate stamp that I created. This one was more inspired by the apple crates at, the apple orchards. So I just made one of my own, and I put it on here using some stencil vinyl that I purchased off of Amazon, and it was actually extremely inexpensive, and it's very nice. It worked. It might be my new best friend. So I used that, then I actually used the same stencil on both sides. So that's why on the second one it looks like this, and which I actually kind of liked because it gave it more of a authentic feel to it, in my opinion. Then I finished that off with a nice good sanding to give it more of a distressed, worn look. And I'm back to my apple sign, which I am just sizing, and then I hot glue it into place. Next, I'm taking these Dollar Tree apples, one of which my son thought was real and started to chew on, and I am adding some other finishing touches, all from Dollar Tree, super cute, just to give it a little decor. And as the final touch, a twine bow to go on the corner. So I have these two foam pumpkins that I actually bought for this project, and I used the embellishments at the top on another project. I think actually I posted that video already, but so I'm just taking these and I'm painting one with Waverly Chalk Paint in the color white, and the other one I'm going to paint in the Waverly Moss colored chalk paint. Here I'm using the stencil brushes from Dollar Tree. It comes in, I think, a 3-pack, but this is the smaller brush, and I'm just painting little circles on the white pumpkin, and because it's a uneven surface, I had to kind of finish off the circles with just a regular paintbrush, which actually wasn't as difficult as it seems. On the moss pumpkin, I took some jute string and just used my hot glue gun to keep everything in place, and I used the jute string to accent all the details of the pumpkin. Next, I am taking this ribbon from Dollar Tree that's kind of like a burlap with some gold accents on the side. It's super duper cute. Like, all the ribbons they've been coming out with this year have been absolutely adorable. So I am using this to kind of give the pumpkins a little more something. So these are going to mimic where the leaves would normally go. And I'm going to do this to both pumpkins. Next, I am taking a Dollar Tree pie pan and this, I think it's called mesh rope, but they had this burlap looking one, which was really cool. So I originally was going to put raffia all the way around, and it was a pain in the booty. Like, I don't even know how people are using raffia. I have not figured out the technique. So I went to this instead, and it worked pretty well. I actually purchased this rope with no intentions of using it. I kind of thought it looked really awesome and it would come in handy, which it did in this case, but I had no idea what I was going to use with it. So cool. The cool thing is you can pull it on the end and it will go flat. So then you can kind of just make it flow. I also have a cake pan from Dollar Tree that I also added that rope to. Here I am gluing the pumpkins to the center of that pan. Finally, I am hot gluing them all together, and voila! So I decided to use one of these mini wreath forms and make another mini wreath for my DIY'd window shutter. I will link the video below if you haven't seen that, check it out. And I found a nice use for this raffia, so I just kind of weaved it between the wires, and it just had such a beautiful pattern. So I decided to go a little more, and I had this idea just to go halfway. So I decided to do that, and it looked super cool. Next, I took this super farmhousey ribbon, again from Dollar Tree, in their super cute collection, and I did the same thing. I weaved it in between the wires, and I just thought it looked so amazing. I just kept going, and I did the other half with that. And in my opinion, it's pretty stinking cute. So I just made sure to pinch it a little bit or kind of press it together just to make sure that the wires were not showing or were showing as little as possible, because I definitely did not want the wires to show through. Next, I secured it with hot glue, and look how cute it is. My goodness. Then I had this lamb's ear from Walmart, and I just took two pieces. I just took the little sprigs right off, and I hot glued them at the bottom. As you can see, I kind of overlapped the ribbon. It wasn't quite halfway with the raffia, but when you cover it with floral or something, it doesn't show, so it's perfect. Then I took these, what are they called? Foxtails? No. I forget what this plant is called, but I used those as embellishments along with some of these cute teeny tiny little white flowers that they have in their fall collection. And this was super quick, super fast, and it is so cute. I love it. All right, my first attempt on this. I am using this pumpkin wreath form. I really wanted this to work out. So if anybody else has patience and you think that you can visualize it and see something beautiful, go for it. I just kind of kept this in the video just because I'm kind of hoping that somebody will be inspired to do something like this, because I really thought this would be great, but at the end of it, it was going to take me forever. I did not think, I really was hesitant on whether or not I thought that was going to actually look good or if it was just going to look crazy. So I didn't do it, but there's an idea for you. So I removed all of the ribbons, obviously, and then I kind of just had to freehand what I was going to do next. So I really wasn't sure. I was just kind of going with the flow. So I was remembering that little tiny wreath that I did where I weaved the ribbon, and that is what I got inspired to, how I got inspired to do this one. So I had this macrame cord, and I am just taking the macrame cord, and I know this video looks really crazy right now, but basically I'm just weaving it back and forth between the wires. So I'm just weaving it over and under and over and under and over and under and so forth. So, and along the way I used little dots of hot glue to make sure that it was secure and staying in its area. It worked out really nice. So as you can see, it looks really kind of cool, kind of like a cable knit sweater. That's what it reminds me of. So I continued to do that, and I have all of this macrame cord that I'm not using. I used it on a gift. So I have all this macrame cord. I need to use it. And here we go. And so then, just because I wanted the wire to disappear and I wanted it to look like I bought it at a store, so I obviously don't want the wire just kind of hanging out. Although some places you pay a fortune for and it looks like the wire's hanging out. So anyway, for this I decided to go through and I did it to every other section. And yeah, every other section. So here's what it looks like all finished. And yes, the light is, I'm losing light. And no, it did not take me all day. It is just that I have to take frequent breaks and the day passes me very quickly. So I took this really cute farmhouse ribbon that I got at Dollar Tree, and it is the same one that I used on the other wreath, the little mini wreath that I referred to earlier. And I decided that these two patterns might look really good together. So I basically took this ribbon and I just went back and forth kind of like you would a shoestring. That's the best way that I can explain how to do this part. So I did the over and under, but it really reminds me of when you tie your shoes and how your laces look when they're all laced up. Now I'm going to do the same thing with another Dollar Tree ribbon, this lace ribbon. And I'm going to do the lace ribbon in the middle column. Don't you just love how these three patterns go together? They are so cute. I am absolutely in love with this pumpkin. And for me, just kind of doing it out of nowhere, I'm super proud of myself because normally I don't feel like I have a very good eye for coordinating patterns. So this turned out really cute. So anyway, I took some nautical rope and I decided I wanted a thicker stem at the top. I wanted it to kind of stick out a little bit and be different from the other patterns. So I took this nautical rope and I just wrapped it all the way around so it would just be bulky, just like a real stem. And then I just hot glued it at the top and pinched it together to seal it off. Next, I took this berry wire that I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm using that to just make some little embellishments around the top. Then I got this cute sprig that they had at Walmart, I believe, for $1. And they still have them, by the way, if you want some super cute, inexpensive sprigs of fall flowers and pine cones and such. They're at Walmart. They're 98 cents. Amazing. And I also took this boxwood. I believe this boxwood is from Walmart too. It has to be because it was pretty much Dollar Tree and Walmart is where I get my floral. And I kind of arranged it at first and then I just hot glued it into place. But I do really love how the darker embellishments at the top really accent and bring out the different patterns on the pumpkin. I love everything about this pumpkin. You guys, I seriously love it. I hope you do too. Project number 2 is actually inspired by something that I saw at Kirkland's. It was a $75 really cute decor piece and I just thought I could recreate it. So I grabbed one of these yard signs from Dollar Tree. I popped it off of the stick. As you see, it was really simple to do. And then I wanted to get rid of this stem piece that was hanging over the edge. So being a Dollar Tree piece of board, I remembered it's really easy to just cut through it. So I just used my box cutter and I was able to just take that off easily. Then I started taking some of this folk art paint and going over the truck area, but I soon realized that is super transparent. It wasn't going to work. So I went over it with Waverly Chalk Paint in the color white, and I went over it with 2 coats of paint. Next, I took this apple barrel paint in the color black, and I'm just going over the tires. I'm going to be using these DIY stickers from Dollar Tree. I picked them up last year, but I did see them this year. Not sure if yours has one or if you have them from last year, but they're awesome. Then I'm taking this ruler, and I don't know why I decided I was going to use a knife. I think I just didn't want the line marks from a pen. I was afraid they would show through, but I'm just making an outline of where the window will be. Next, I'm just going over the truck back with that folk art paint, and it is the color Skyline. Like a dummy, I painted over my bumper, which was perfect as it was, but now I'll just have to go back over. You'll see me go back over in a minute, and I'll be going over it with white again. Sorry for my raspy voice, it's really early in the morning. Here I'm going back in with the Waverly Chalk Paint, and I am painting the bumper. And then I'm actually going to use, I wanted the bumper, I really wasn't sure if I wanted the bumper to look like it was painted or if I wanted it to have crisper lines. And I ended up wanting a crisper line, so I just used this ruler and painted along it to make a nice straight line. So I finally find a white paint pen, and it was kind of a dud. Wah wah. But oh well. It kind of conked out on me a little bit, so I ended up using this chalk writer from Dollar Tree actually to fill in all the pieces, and then I went around the edge with it. I was really digging the texture it was adding to my piece. So I just went along the edges and some of the details on the truck. Then I'm going to go back over with the white paint pen just to do the fine details. It has been extremely difficult to find a white paint pen during this whole thing, so I was super stoked, and I picked up two, thankfully, when I saw them at Michael's. However, thank God I got two of them because one ended up being kind of a dud. So I wanted to show you guys a way to do this without a Cricut machine or something like that. So I picked up one of these stencils from the Dollar Tree. It is super cute, really trendy handwriting. And even though I measured out, to the best of my abilities, kind of freehand measuring out, I still completely messed this up. And you will see how. So I thought that the letters, because they were so kind of wide and just all of them were different sizes and whatnot, I thought that it was going to take up that entire square. And then I did it all and I had to redo it because it was completely off. I was completely wrong. So I'm not very good at using stencils. So I guess if you're gonna use these, wah, wah, just make sure, yeah, there it is. So ugly. Just make sure that you really take a moment, maybe not eyeball it. I don't know, use whatever hack you have to get that centered, because it's really sad when you get to that last letter and you're like, man, I've got a lot of space left. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So I took the blue paint and I went over it. Thankfully, it covered right up with the blue paint. I think I did 2 coats over it just in case, or maybe there were a couple places where I could still see the white, and then I was able to fix it. So it wasn't the end of the world. But anyway, so then I'm taking these 3 little pumpkin stickers. Since they were from last year, that sticky thing the sticker on the back was totally shot. So I just decided I wanted them to look like they were popping out of the back of the truck. So I needed the bottom piece to be off. And from watching other crafters, the wood from Dollar Tree is really easy to cut through, so I decided to take a go at it, and it's true. Even these little wooden stickers, it's the same thing. You just use a knife and make a cut, and it pops right off. So my camera died, and no, I didn't notice, so I redid the stencil, as you can see, and yeah, it actually looked really good. I ended up filling in the stencil, the little gaps between the stencil, and I think it looks more complete and together, although I did like the way it looked stencil-wise, but I like this way a lot better. So as you see, the pumpkins are all shaved off on the bottom, and I'm just going to add some hot glue and hot glue them into place. I'm also going to apologize. I've got a crap load of construction going on, and there's nothing I can do about it. So, and I think it's a pretty big project, and it's going to be going on for a while, so we might have random construction workers during the day making noise. But it's good. They're working. So here, as you saw, I had just measured out where I wanted the pumpkins, and then I am making a line where I want to cut them, and I'm just using my X-Acto knife to cut that edge off, and I'm also going to hot glue those in place. I'm just going to throw in that last year when I bought these, I really did not think I was going to have any use for the sparkly pumpkins, and man, those really add a certain something to this piece. So I took one of these thankful signs from Dollar Tree, and I just painted over the top part, the part that actually says thankful and has a really, really cute design. I saved one that is undone, but I don't have any others, so if I want this buffalo check pattern on something else, then I'm going to have to say goodbye to it. But it's super cute. If you can find them at your store, grab some. But I painted over it with white, and this is going to be my stand for the car. Here I just had to get creative, and I was trying to figure out a way to make this car stand on the stand. So I actually grabbed a couple of these Jenga pieces, and I tested them out, you know, here with like a little tiny dot of glue, and then it worked really well. So I decided I only needed 2 pieces, and then I just hot glued those in place, and then I hot glued them onto the stand, and it turned out perfect. Like, it worked out so well, and I really just kind of thought it was going to be flimsy for some reason, but it worked out great. So Jenga blocks to the rescue. I think that this craft turned out absolutely perfect. I did do some accents with a silver Sharpie, if you notice, around the lights and around some of the white areas. But I think this is absolutely perfect. I actually couldn't ask for it to be any more perfect. If you feel the same, please give this a like and subscribe for further updates. I have a lot of upcoming videos or ideas for videos that I am hoping to get out to you. Okay, so for this first project, you're going to pick up some of these canvas signs from Dollar Tree, and I'm just ripping away the canvas to expose the wood. and I used 5 of these, I want to say. 4 of these signs. So I disassembled them completely and exposed just the wood. Once that was completed, I took all of the frames and spaced them out evenly, and then I took some large popsicle sticks that I get from Dollar Tree, and you're going to see that I was measuring them out at the beginning, but I did not decide to do this. I just cut them exactly in half, and then I used those and pasted them in the inside of the frames. After that was complete, I went ahead and took some more popsicle sticks and I cut them to size and then hot glued them to the base. Next, I took a Dollar Tree plunger and I measured it and then cut it to size. Just FYI, this wood is pretty soft, so it's very easy to cut through. Next, I took this super cool DeWalt hand drill and I drilled holes through 2 rulers and the ends of the plunger stick. Next, I used Gorilla Wood Glue and hot glue to adhere the 2 rulers to the frames. Before I add the handle to the piece, I am securing it all together with a screw. You guys, I don't know if any of you have ever seen this nifty little hand drill, but it is amazing. And no, this isn't sponsored, but it's just a really cool tool. My dad actually bought it for me a few years back, and I think it was from Home Depot, and it's just so stinking awesome. It's compact, super convenient, and it has all these cool little drill bits. It's just really awesome. So I'll try to find a link for it and put it below if I can find it. So anyway, here I am painting the rulers with apple barrel black paint, and just I'm only doing this step so that I am covering up all of the letters or the numbers, because I wasn't sure if it would show through when I actually paint it the color I'm going to paint it. And then I thought I had this idea that I was going to be distressing the entire piece, and I ended up not wanting to do that. So that's why I have like little chunks of black everywhere, but that's just where my thought process was. And here I am painting the entire piece with Waverly Chalk Paint in the color Moss. And you guys, this color is just so incredibly pretty. It's just such a nice color. This color and I are going to be great friends this holiday season because I'm going to paint it on everything. You seriously have to appreciate when you walk away from your craft desk and you have little surprises inside of the things that you make. I stinking love having kids. I also want to point out really quick that if you do something like this, you always kind of want to go down like halfway in the inside. You don't have to paint the entire inside because you're not going to see it, but you will see some of it when you're looking at certain angles. So if you want that more high-end look, you just have to paint a little bit down in the middle. Okay, so I'm pretty proud of this step because this was completely unplanned. I kind of winged this craft and it turned out so amazing. So somehow while I was making it, I had this thought of the shipping containers and how they have this really cool stamp on the side that usually looks kind of rustic. So I made one myself on my Cricut design space, and I just kind of took a leap of faith, and or not a leap of faith really on crafting, but you know what I'm talking about. I was literally just seeing if hold on, babes. Sorry about that interruption, but I don't remember what I was saying. So, yeah. Crate stamps. That's about it. Anyway, so here I just took some really thick jute string. I actually get this jute string from Walmart. It comes in a really nice big roll, and it's about, I want to say it's about $5, but that thing lasts forever. So I've been using it on everything, and it's a little thicker than the standard jute string, so it just adds a lot of detail, and it's really nice. So I just used it to make an accented handle, and it added that perfect little detailed touch. And then, as you saw, I just cut some floral foam to size. And I don't know about everybody else, but I have a ton of floral foam. I just always pick it up, and then I have just like a crap load. So now I am using some Dollar Tree floral stems to arrange inside of this little, I guess it's a tool, my take of like a vintage toolbox. And I am putting a bunch of different fall floral picks from Dollar Tree, and it turned out so beautiful, and you will see the end result right now. So for project number 2, I used another one of these Dollar Tree splatter screens, and I removed the handle. I'm not really sure which splatter screen I like better, because this one was rather difficult to get out. I mean, it took a little elbow grease to get it out, but the other one is super easy to come out, but then you have a hole in the middle, and this one you don't. But I don't know. I guess you decide depending on your project. So I took some nautical rope and I just went around and put it down to my liking. We're going to try to make a pumpkin, like a pumpkin wreath type of thing or door hanger out of this splatter screen. So I am going all the way around with the nautical rope and then joining it all at the top. Next, I took one of these Dollar Tree, I don't know, branch pieces. I don't actually know what they're called. I had some left over from my coastal theme video, and I have a big bag of them, so now I'm just trying to figure out ways to use them. And then I had a metal leaf left over from another project or another decoration I had from last year, so it was just kind of in my stash. And then I used some of these just different decorative accents, all from Dollar Tree. Super cute. This is like wire, I don't even know what it's called, berries wire or something like that. But I was actually I've been trying to incorporate it in a couple of the crafts and I just can't seem to figure out what else I can use it for. So I was really excited to use a little chunk of it. And then these super cute little sunflowers that they have at Dollar Tree this year, they're amazing. And then again, I used a Dollar Tree welcome sign, and I'm just sticking that on the front, and I'm going to hot glue a sawtooth hanger to the back. I will say to not hot glue it, but to use E6000 because hot glue only lasted for a little bit and then it just came off. So use E6000 or any type of stronger glue, super glue or something like that. Just don't use hot glue because it doesn't hold up very well. But I think it turned out really cute. And for this next project, I'm using these two signs left over from Easter like 2 years ago. I've had them in my box and I just have never figured out what I wanted to use them for. And I didn't want to waste them, if that sounds so silly. But I didn't want to waste them on just any project. I wanted them to be really cute. And that's actually what I'm going to be using. I'm using a bunch of stuff that I have been hoarding in my box and I've just not felt like I had the perfect thing to use it on, so I just haven't, which is silly, but that's just the truth. So I am using popsicle sticks to secure the back of the sign. And then I'm using Dollar Tree spackle to fill in the holes in the middle. I am using a larger drill bit to make larger holes for a thicker piece of string to hang. And then I'm using my Waverly Chalk Paint, which I thought was actually a little too old because it was at this stage where it was a little thicker and just kind of seeming like it was getting a little dry. But it actually worked out perfect because of the thickness, it actually makes it look more like you're painting over a real piece of wood, like a real piece of fencing. It gives it like this different texture, it turned out super cool. And it felt like it was a little thicker, so I didn't have to use as much paint, and it just overall just worked out perfectly. So I was really thankful for that. And then I'm just using some, I believe it's apple barrel paint, and I apologize, my son's sitting behind me, he wants to be with me. So I'm I'm using some brown apple barrel paint, and it's just basic brown, and I'm just making some distressing wood-like marks with a dry brush. And yes, I use foam brushes for the most part because I kind of like the way that they paint best. Now I'm using a ruler to make the plank lines, and I'm not going to paint over them. I'm just going to leave it as is. I like that color. I like how it's kind of lighter. And then I'm using a sharp object to get the paint out from between the two. I think I've said this before, I really like to keep the line open where I meet two pieces of wood because I feel like it looks more authentic. And here I'm taking another splatter screen, and I basically held a piece of paper up to my computer and I traced these two pumpkins. And then I took that paper, I put it underneath the splatter screen and used a Sharpie to then trace that image onto the splatter screen. And now I'm cutting it out, and I'm going to use black and gold puffy paint that I have in my stash, and I never use it for anything, so I thought, why not? I was actually going to get rid of it, but I thought, like, let's use it for something. So I thought it might look cool to have puffy paint on top of this thing, so I'm using it on there. But I guess I'm doing that later, sorry. So I adhere the metal pieces back onto the sign, and I'm going to apologize really quick because there is a crazy helicopter above my head. I live in Southern California, and I live very, very near the fires that are one of the fires that's currently going on, and so we have a lot of commotion. Anyway, so I have this super cute Hello Fall sign. I got this at Hobby Lobby, no joke, like 3 or 4 years ago, and I was gonna make a door hanger out of it, and I never did. So there you are. So I am painting it with that beautiful Waverly moss colored paint, chalk paint. And now I'm going to move on to the pumpkin. I am going to outline the pumpkin with the black puffy paint. And what I decided to do so that I could differentiate the two pumpkins and give them their own distinct features. My goodness, it's so loud. You would think I was in the fire. Oh my goodness. 1 minute. Okay, so like I said, I was trying to distinguish the two pumpkins, so I painted the bottom one with the black paint and the top one with the gold paint, and then the stems the opposite color on both. I did 2 coats of paint. The first one was a little flat, so when it dried, I put another layer of puffy paint. And next I took this Dollar Tree burlap ribbon that has these cute printed pumpkins on it. My goodness, Dollar Tree's ribbons this year have been so darling. And I made this really sweet little bow, and I'm going to adhere that to the sign. Aren't you all just super impressed with Dollar Tree's ribbons and just all the little farmhouse stuff that they have been bringing in this year? It's so stinking cute. I can't get enough of it. Next, I used hot glue to adhere the Hello Fall sign as well as all the other accessories. I used a little bit more of that thicker jute string from Walmart, and then I had some wooden beads that I put on the string, and then I tied it in place and cut the ends, and voila. So cute.
So for my first project, I used one of these summer signs from Dollar Tree. I removed the starfish from the front and the little jute string hanger. So I went through the images and chose the November harvest picture. I trimmed the edges to fit the board and used Mod Podge to adhere it. Next time I will probably go and use hot glue because the paper started to ripple in the middle and I absolutely hated it. I ended up sitting it out in the sun to dry and it lessened the rippling effect, but it was still there and it was kind of a bummer. Next, I purchased 2 of these mini crates. I hot glued them together and stained them with Minwax stain in the color Early American. I do not know if you guys have used this color, but I use it for everything. It is the most amazing stain color ever, in my opinion. Next, I took these popsicle stick pieces that were left over from my coastal decor project. I trimmed and sanded the edges to mimic fence pieces, and I stained them with the same wood stain. I hot glued the sign to the back of the 2 crates, then reinforced it using 3 large popsicle sticks. I usually buy the popsicle sticks at Walmart, or at least the large ones. Next, I glued the small popsicle sticks in place to look like a fence. I took a piece of floral foam I had, cut it in half, and placed the 2 pieces inside each of the crates. I then filled the crates with some Dollar Tree flowers. These first flowers that I used were actually pulled off of some foam pumpkins that I'm going to be using on another project, so that worked out nicely. My daughter wanted so badly to put flowers on too, so I let her add one of the final flowers and give it that final touch. It's the little things. Lastly, I made a small bow out of jute string to cover that little calendar hole, and that's it. So for my next project, I was trying to figure out something to do with those cute little succulent candles, but I'll be honest, I'm going to show you two different ways that I put it together, but I'm really not sure how I feel about this. So I grabbed one of these clear trays, and at first I was going to paint it white, but then I liked the way the clear kind of looked in the background of the candles, so I left it clear. So I arranged the candles and mixed them with the artificial succulents from Dollar Tree, which in my opinion are brighter and nicer than the last batch, which is pretty cool. I filled the edges in with some of the Dollar Tree potpourri. It doesn't smell beautifully, but this was going to be outside, so I'm not really caring about the smell. So like I said, this did not turn out how I envisioned. So I removed the other succulents and I replaced them with fall leaves from Dollar Tree. And I think that brought a lot of color to the tray, but like I said, it's nothing how I envisioned. And now I'm not even really sure what I was envisioning, so I don't know how I feel about this project, but I wanted to share it with you guys anyway. Maybe it'll inspire you guys to make something else with these materials, and maybe it'll, I don't know, maybe you can find something really cool to do with these candles, but until then, my children really thought it was cool and they really couldn't keep their hands off of it, so I guess that's a win. For my final project, I took this splatter screen and I wanted to make a fall version of the splatter screen hanger that I made for spring. So I removed the handle and arranged some fall picks along the edges and hot glued them into place. I added some of these really cute white pumpkin picks to the arrangement that they also have at Dollar Tree this year. And then I used this pre-made bow that you can see. It comes in a 2-pack and it's also super duper cute. Next, I took some of these wooden letters from the Dollar Tree and I spelled out the words Hello Fall. I am a nerd though, because I only bought 2 packs of letters and they only have one of each letter in the pack, so I ended up taking the letter T from both packs and then I just cut the ends off so that it looks like an L, and it worked out well. I hot glued them in place and I made sure that the A covered that hole from the handle. I cut a hole in the top center of the screen, strung a few wooden beads on some jute string and tied it at the top, and then I frayed the ends. And yeah, that's all there is to it. And this is how it turned out.
Hey everyone, so I just kind of wanted to show off what I created using some vinyl I had left over from another project. So like I mentioned, I had some leftover removable vinyl and some odd colors left over from another project, and it's just been sitting around collecting dust. So then I was thinking about it and I remembered this idea that I told my husband about last year, where I thought it would be really cool to do a thankful tree with our kids each year. So then I found a tree and a leaf image on Google. I cut them out using my Cricut, and then I took the tree pieces outside and I spray painted them with some bronze spray paint that I already had. Now each night our family can sit and take a few moments to write down 1, sometimes 2 or 3 things on each leaf that we're thankful for, or for the babies, it's just things that we like. And at the end of this month, we'll have such a cool in-our-face image of all the blessings in our life. So we're really super excited to see what that's going to look like and see how full the tree is. Also, every time we've had a friend over or a family member, anyone that walks through our door, I make them fill out a leaf as well. So we just have tons of thankfulness when you walk in the door, and it's really, really cool. I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait to do it every single year from now on.
To start this project, I took 6 square signs that I found at the 99-cent only store and I set them apart. I used a baby butter knife to make lines on the wood, but I didn't actually need to do this until later, so we'll come back to that. These signs actually came with jute string hangers, so I removed the hanger and filled the holes with some spackle from Dollar Tree. I hate that I left all the tags on the back, but they were such a pain to get off, I just gave up. So if you have a tip on how to remove these easily, please leave that tip in the comment section below. I flipped the boards over and I secured them together using hot glue. I then glued on some jumbo popsicle sticks for some added support. I do buy my jumbo popsicle sticks at Walmart. Next, I flipped the board over again and I applied spackle over the vertical seams of the boards. I left the horizontal seam because I really want to make this sign mimic shiplap. I still felt like I needed some more security just with how big this whole sign is. So I took some basswood boards from another project I had and I glued them across the top and bottoms of the back of the sign with E6000 glue. I wanted a tight bond, so I tried using some clamps that I had from Dollar Tree, but they are not strong at all. So I ended up picking up some of the heaviest books I could find around the house, and I laid them atop the sign while I had the glue dry. Sorry. Once the glue dried, I sanded the front of my sign and I painted it with white Waverly Chalk Paint. It took about 2 coats of paint to get full coverage, and then I took my vinyl weeding tool to clear the paint from that horizontal line. I really want that opening so that my sign resembles real shiplap. So if you don't have a weeding tool, you can use anything virtually that will fit in that space. A toothpick, a butter knife, a safety pin, just to give a few examples. After the paint dried, I used a butter knife to make shiplap lines on my board. Can you believe that? I used a butter knife. And it worked great. Using my Cricut, I put together this stencil using some leftover vinyl that I had. I weeded the design and I taped the pieces together with some painter's tape. I placed the design on my board and then I painted over the stencil using a makeup sponge. For this color, I actually mixed a tiny bit of brown, just a basic brown, with 2 Waverly Chalk paints in the colors Mineral and Elephant. I first did a very light coat of paint and then I went over it with a second coat of paint before removing the stencil, and then I finalized the painting by taking some of that paint and sponge and roughly going along the edges of the board to give it a distressed look. This last part is so wackadoo, I apologize, but all my footage disappeared and this is what's left, and it's not even the part that worked out, it was just the blooper, so I will explain while you watch this blooper and I'll actually show you how it turned out at the end. So for the second part of this project, I took 2 of these little signs from Dollar Tree. I painted the backgrounds of each in white Waverly Chalk paint. I made stencils for both in two cute sayings, and then I used the same recipe of paint for the frames and some of the writing. The other colors I just mixed together for some custom color to my liking, but I also ended up using command strips to hang them because this obviously was a fail. Oh my goodness. I actually made this last year and I never got to show anyone because it was too late in the season to post the video, so I'm really happy that I can finally share them with everyone because they really did turn out super cute.
So for this pumpkin sign, you are going to need 3 signs, 2 of the smaller, flatter ones, and 1 of the taller pumpkins you see here from Dollar Tree. So I'm starting here by removing the burlap decor from the front of each of the pumpkins. I don't like using the backside of things. I like it to look clean, like I bought it from a store. So I do tend to go the extra mile and get rid of the stuff in the front just because it adds that extra element that I like for the pieces around my house. it wasn't actually much effort at all. This whole process probably took 5 minutes. I used a piece of coarse sandpaper to remove the glitter and just the excess little residue from the paint and stuff like that. It wasn't very much effort at all. So very, very much worth it in my opinion. Now I'm going to take some Waverly Chalk Paint in white, and I get to do the fun painting part. Paint all the pumpkins white. Next, I'm using the Waverly Chalk Paint in color Mineral, and I'm going to dry brush the details of each of the pumpkins. Here's a quick tip. When you're dry brushing, use a flat brush rather than a pointed tipped brush. It's a lot easier. And also, baby wipes can be your saving grace if you accidentally make a mistake or you use too much paint. I happen to have a ton of wipes around, so this was actually pretty convenient to use. I will say it is very intimidating. I completely understand being intimidated by making all the fine details because you want it to look good and you want all these, you kind of are striving for a little bit of perfection. I would recommend just going for it and just starting with some sweeps, some sweeping motions rather than trying to go at it little by little. It does definitely help. As you can tell, by the third one you get a little bit more comfortable, so it's a lot easier to say that, but definitely recommend just sweep your hand across that thing and go for it. The worst case scenario, you'd have to repaint it and start all over again, which is not that bad. I'm using moss colored Waverly Chalk Paint from Walmart, and I'm going to use that to color the stem or handle of the pumpkin. So I am mixing this Anita's all-purpose acrylic paint in earth brown. I apologize, I don't know where it came from. And I am mixing it with elephant chalk paint from Waverly. I mixed the two together because the brown was just a little too brown, and I found that by mixing the two colors together, it actually matched in with the original color of this sign. So I really didn't have to do much work or care if the colors were too different. So made covering up the white very, very easy. So for the wording, I picked up one of these Home Sweet Home wall decals from Dollar Tree. The convenient thing about using these type of decals is that they're repositionable. So if you are not really sure how you want them to set on your project, you can just pick them up and move them around. It's very, very convenient, very, very beautiful thing to use. Again, for your convenience, I will list all of the products used on this project in the description box below. Once I had the stickers positioned, I used a matte Mod Podge to seal in and glue down all of the wording. I wanted to use these cute little sunflowers, however, I did not want them to be yellow. I kept looking at it, just didn't really quite go with my decor, so I decided to paint them white. Although I probably should have left one that was not painted so I could reference how you're supposed to paint a sunflower. But thank you, internet, for all of the many pictures of sunflowers that I could reference. I ended up using a pencil to kind of see if it would even look like a sunflower before I drew it on there. And thankfully, with the tips from some clip art photos, it actually was very easy, kind of using the outside, the edges, as a guide to see kind of where each petal was, and then I was able to paint it from there. I then blotted the paint in the middle to give it more of a realistic touch. And I also used, so here I'm using the Waverly Mineral Chalk Paint, and then I'm gonna go over it with kind of more of just a regular acrylic paint that I had. I think it was just a tan color. And I just literally just did some in the middle. I would actually say that if you have some other accent color in your house, it would actually probably look really cute to add that accent color in the center as well. Just to kind of, if you've noticed, a sunflower usually has 2 tones. So I just think if you added another color, it might give it a little extra touch that might be a little unique. And finally, just hot glue the flowers in place. And then I made a few or a couple just little bows out of jute string and did that for the final touches on the other 2 pumpkins, and we were all set. I cannot be happier with this project. It turned out fantastic. It was super simple to make, and if you really think about it, it didn't take very much time. I think it took less than an hour for me to complete. You're going to have 3 of these pumpkin signs, and you're going to remove the jute string holder, the little sign holder, and you're also going to remove the leaf and bow from the top. You're going to want to be careful because that leaf pops off. It flew across the room when I did it, and you just might want to be a little bit careful with that. Next, you're going to want to remove that glue piece. It is on there pretty nicely, so I did try using a razor blade, which I was pretty unsuccessful, so I grabbed this spatula and had a little bit more luck, and then I kind of just peeled it off. And I peeled off what I could, and then I actually took some sandpaper and I was able to sand the rest of it off while I was sanding the entire front. So it worked out nicely. I also used the spatula to take off the glitter that was on the lettering, which worked out really, really nicely actually. I definitely recommend that. Then I took some sandpaper and I sanded the entire front down. Next, I used my trusty old chalk paint in color white, and I just painted all of the pumpkins. I picked up some of this lightweight spackling from the Dollar Tree, and I filled in the holes that the hangers were on because I will not be needing those. It was actually pretty simple. Just used my finger and then wiped off the excess. Next, I'm going in with a second round of white chalk paint to cover the surface. Here I am going to make some details with some mineral chalk paint by Waverly. I picked this up for less than $2 at Walmart. So I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the mineral paint to make all the details of the pumpkin. I will suggest that instead of, it is a little bit nerve-wracking when you're first starting out because you're not really sure if it's going to turn out right, but I just say just go for it. Just make some really nice sweeping, bold strokes, and if it doesn't turn out right, then you can always take a baby wipe and wipe it off or repaint it. But it's always better to just go for it, because if you're doing little tiny strokes, it's going to look broken and it's going to look like you really tried to paint it. So I would just go with some really nice long strokes. Just try to be brave. Next, I am taking some Waverly paint in color moss for the stem of the pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and just paint the stem of the pumpkin. You can't really tell what I'm doing, but I'm just literally painting the stem of the pumpkin. And then later on, I'm going to take a more detailed, fine-tipped brush, and I will make kind of the details of the bottom of the stem, just so it looks more pumpkin-like. I tried doing it with the sponge brush like I like to use, but I ended up finding it a lot faster and easier using a detailed brush. And honestly, the brush was just a silly little one that I had lying around the house. I'm pretty sure it was just like a $1 pack that I picked up somewhere, and nothing special. But you see, it definitely adds a nice touch to have a little bit of detail. So here I'm showing you, I made some of these on my computer. I actually made it on a Cricut, on the Cricut design space. However, you can always use just Word document and just pick some fonts and get a picture of an arrow, a clip art, free clip art or something, and you can design it there. You don't need anything special. So I literally just took I designed these 3 designs, and then I printed them out on my computer. I turned them around. What I did here is, I am on a glass table here, so it was a little bit more convenient for me, but you can always use a piece of glass or your window or a lampshade. You just flip it around and you can trace out the letters with a pencil. See here, and then we'll use that to transfer these onto the pumpkins. So here I just taped it in place so that the picture and image would not move around. And then I took my pencil and I just went over all the areas that I traced on the back so that it transfers onto the pumpkin. So you do not have to do it like this, but I used a ruler and a Sharpie, a fine tip Sharpie, because I am a perfectionist and I do need my lines to be very straight. So all the straight edges I did go over with my ruler just because that's just my preference. Then I took a paint marker and I filled in all of the lines so it looked neat. So to make it look a little more tidy, I did use the marker to kind of fill in the corners first of the letters, and then I filled in between. I just did that so that it would, like I said, look a little neater and a little more professionally done. I do have a Cricut, so I can just use a vinyl and do it this way, but I wanted to show you guys that you can do it without a Cricut. You just need, takes a little more time, but it looks actually really cool. It can look just as nice. So to assemble, I'm taking some E6000. I'm actually going to mark the areas so that I can line it up properly. And I'm using actually a combination of E6000 and hot glue, just because E6000 takes a long time to set, but it is stronger. But I wanted the hot glue so that I could just kind of go on with it. Also, just a tip, for me to make sure that my pumpkins come out straight and my pumpkin sign is straight, I actually use the edge of my table to line the pumpkins up. So, because the last thing you want is to go through all of this work and then assemble your pumpkin, sign, and then stand it up and have it be lopsided. So I did use the straight edge of the side of the table to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, so we flipped it around. We have these giant craft sticks that I picked up from Walmart. I'm going to assemble them on the back of the sign so that it gives it a little more stability when it's standing up. And I'm just going to glue them in place. I'm literally going to do the same thing. I'm going to use a little bit of E6000, and I'm also going to use hot glue to secure them in place. So for the last part of this project, you'll need 2 of these thankful signs from Dollar Tree. And I chose the ones with the beautiful buffalo check on the side because I thought it looked super cute. And you're just going to paint over that thankful sign wording, which was actually pretty hard because this is a really cute sign. Kind of wish that I had picked up some that I could have just used for decorations. I will say that this sign was a little bit difficult to get rid of the wording, though, like I've said before, I am very impatient. I did not really wait for the coats to dry, the layers in between to dry, so it was really difficult. It probably took, I want to say it took about 3 or 4 tries, layers of paint to get over it. Probably wouldn't have taken that much had I had just been patient and let it dry, or had I had used a blow dryer or something to dry it between layers. Live and learn. And next, you're just going to take some E6000 again and some hot glue, and you're just going to glue it into place as the base. Next, I'm flipping it over, and I'm gonna use there's like a teeny tiny little gap in between the base and the pumpkin. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of building up like a little wall of glue, of hot glue, so that I can kind of fill in that gap. So I just it kind of seemed like it was going to bother me that it was such an open gap, and I really wasn't sure if there would be enough room for the other side to stick as well. So what I just, like I said, I built a wall with glue and then I stuck them together. Worked out pretty well. Here I am actually taking my hot glue gun and I'm filling in the space in between because there was still some space in between and I wanted to make sure that the two pieces weren't going to come apart. So I just took my glue gun, the tip of my glue gun, and I stuck it in the hole and I just filled it with glue. For the final touches, I took those little leaves that I originally took off, I set them in place. And then I took some jute string and made a few jute string bows to go along with it. So here's the jute string, and all I did was wrap it around my fingers, and I made just a really teeny tiny bow by just wrapping the jute string around 3 fingers and then tying it in a knot. Worked out really beautifully. The bows turned out cute. I'll show you in a minute, and that's it. Glued them in place and we're done. I honestly can't tell you how thrilled I am at how well this piece turned out. I actually impressed myself with it. I had family members over this weekend and I actually had 2 people tell me that I either stole it from like a pumpkin patch or they were not convinced that I made it myself. If you decide to take on this project, I strongly encourage it. It turns out wonderfully. It's so fun to make and you feel super accomplished when you're done with it. I hope you like it. If you do, please give this a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching.
This project was super simple. Since I'm using up my stash, I grabbed one of these window decorations from Dollar Tree and I attempted to scrape off the design, but it only scratched the plastic. So I also used paint remover and acetone to no avail. I wanted this piece to look like a window pane, but after all of my unsuccessful attempts, I just sanded off as much as I could and I went on to plan B. After I had a clean and smooth surface, I mixed some acrylic paints, some green with a tad of white and a drop of black, and I just made my desired shade, and then I painted the whole surface green. I did about 3 coats of paint in total. I made a decal on my Cricut. It's available at my Etsy shop if you're interested. The link is in the description box below. And then I just hot glued the plastic piece back into the frame. For this next project, I used one of these Dollar Tree summer signs which had glitter. I attempted to remove several different ways, but in the end, I just took my rotary sander to it, and that does the trick every time. After the sanding, I did need a smoother surface for my paint, so I gave the surface a couple of coats of Mod Podge, and once that was dry, I painted over it with Dollar Tree Chalkboard Paint. And by the way, if you were wondering, the Dollar Tree Chalkboard Paint is on point. Awesome. Just saying. I painted over 4 wooden rulers and then I cut them down to size to make a frame. I usually purchase these rulers at Walmart, or if I want a larger quantity, I get them on Amazon. I painted them with a mixture of gray and brown acrylic paint and hot glued them into place. So here I also made a decal with my Cricut and then I slapped that on and that was it. I took this canvas sign from Dollar Tree and painted it with 2 coats of off-white chalk paint. Once that was dry, I cut a cute little saying out with stencil vinyl, and then I painted it with gray and black paint. I had a few of these wooden pumpkin stickers left over from last year, so I just painted the larger one with a blue paint, and then I hot glued them into place. I would really love your feedback, by the way, on these videos, so if you see fit, please leave a comment below and just let me know how you're liking it. Thank you. You're awesome. I really love using these little wooden slices, and last year I purchased a ton, so I have a ton to use because I made handmade ornaments last year. So yeah, I grabbed 7 of them and I painted them with a coat of polyacrylic to prevent cracking. Next, I gave it my very best attempt to paint leaves and pumpkins on each of the slices. Once that paint was dry, I went over with a regular marker. I used my alphabet stencil to paint on some letters, and then I went on over those with another marker that I had. And again, these are not paint markers, it's literally just like a regular handwriting marker. I would have even used a little Crayola marker had I had that next to me at that moment. I strung each wood slice to a piece of jute string and added a couple of pieces of some Dollar Tree ribbon that I had on each of the sides of the lettering, and voila! So I saw these cute pumpkins at Dollar Tree and I had to just see if I could spruce them up a bit. I removed the bows and then I had some really thick buffalo check ribbon that I traced and cut to size, and then I hot glued that into place.
I used jute string to outline the ribs of the pumpkin and also to wrap around the stem. And then I hot glued the original bow back into place. I made a second one with some fabric that I had in my stash, and the only difference was that instead of cutting 3 pieces, I just cut a single piece and then I hot glued it into place. This pumpkin was also originally orange, so I had to paint the edges with like a navy blue acrylic paint, and it looked good. I hope these simple crafts make your wheels turn and inspire you to get creating. I thank you so much for giving me a moment of your day. I super appreciate you, and I hope you just have the most amazingly beautiful day. Bye!